What's going on, everyone? It's Bobby, and we're back and we're doing a lens review tonight. A review that a lot of people have been waiting for, especially if you are into the Sony E-Mount system. Now, of course, G-Master lenses are world-renowned, everybody loves them, but they're quite a bit steep price. So Tamron has come to the market recently with another lens that's got a lot of people talking. It's a wide-angle zoom lens. We have it with us today. We're here to talk about the Tamron 17-28 f2.8. All right, now before we get into the review, I do want to say a couple things. First off, no one has paid us for this review. Tamron has not paid us, Sony has not paid us. These are our thoughts and our thoughts only. Second, I want to thank Cathay Photo, Shriro Imaging, and of course Sony Singapore for providing the equipment for this review. Thank you guys very, very much. But having said that, these are my thoughts. Okay, let's get down to it. First off, the Tamron 17-28 goes right against the 16-35 f2.8 G-Master lens by Sony. We have this here. We're gonna pit them against each other. Which is better? Which is the better buy? We're gonna find out. Anyway, talking about the Tamron for a moment, the first thing you'll notice about this lens is actually how light it is. For usually a wide-angle zoom lens, they can get quite hefty because there's a lot of glass that goes into these lenses and a lot of engineering, and especially at f2.8. Tamron has done some engineering marvels here because it is very small for its size. It's weighing about 420 grams, which is significantly less than the G-Master, which we'll talk about in just a second. But now we got to get into the overall design and look at the lens. Now this is where I feel, obviously you're saving some price on this lens, and design is one of those areas. The Tamron, for the most part, looks like a kit lens that you're going to find in some mirrorless cameras out there, but it doesn't shoot like a kit lens. The image quality out of it is not like a kit lens at all, but it's very light, very nondescript. Tamron could put a little bit more design language into it, but I'm not going to fault them, especially for the price, but it's all about the performance, right? And that's what we need to talk about next. Now, this is 17-28, this is 16-35. That could be a make it or break it depending on your needs. Now, I would say, of course, 16-35 is going to give you that range from wide angle, landscape. You can do beautiful scenery, sunsets, all the way up to street photography because you got you covered in that zoom range. This Tamron at 17-28 is more limited. This is more of a wide angle zoom lens. So if you are into landscape photography, cityscapes and thus far, and you don't need that 35, you'll be okay with this. But if you need that 7mm or so more, you might find yourself going to the G-Master. But I can say, after testing these lenses together, that there are many times that the Tamron looks better than the G-Master, handles brighter lights better, not so much glare, detail is very similar. The colors on the Tamron I prefer more, a little bit more warmer tones, where the Sony G-Master is has a bit more of a greenish tint, and Sony lenses tend to have that cooler greenish tint to them. Like it or not, you can fix some of it in post, but I do prefer a warmer tint, especially when you're shooting people, and sunsets and landscapes as well, because it just adds a nice hue to your images that you don't, one less thing to edit, you know what I'm talking about? But having said that though, there is something to be said about having a lens that weighs a little bit more, feels a little bit more robust. And that's where the Sony G-Master kind of pulls ahead of the Tamron a little bit. It just has a much heftier feeling, but of course this lens is about 690 grams thereabout versus 420 grams. And the build quality, you're going to feel it right away. This build quality is much, much better than the Tamron. But again, $899 US, 2,200 US. I'm hoping Sony makes a better build lens, okay? And also you've got the autofocus, manual focus on that. You've got a little bit more controls on the lens to sort of give you that customization that you might want in your shooting, versus the Tamron, which is it's just one way, that's it. It's simple. Now we're gonna talk about price, and then we're gonna talk about my final thoughts. Price-wise, as I mentioned before, $899 US, 2,200 US for these lenses. Here's the thing. Tamron is going to make some fantastic lenses, and they delivered in spades. And yeah, it doesn't have that extra 7mm or so, from the widest angle to the closer at 35mm. But if you kind of do the calculations, they're charging about $200 per millimeter extra just to get the G-Master lens. Is that okay for you? It might be, and if it is, great, go for it. But if you are on a budget and you're like, look, you know what? That $1,300 or so I could do a lot with. Accessories, maybe buy a 35 prime and another lens. The Tamron is the way to go. It's the way to go. And here's another thing to talk about too, because when you're talking about third-party lenses for a second, sometimes we think, well, the autofocus isn't as quick and it doesn't have the same kind of responsiveness that you would get to a native lens. I can say that there's no discernible difference between these two lenses in terms of autofocusing speed, in terms of anything. It performs exactly like a native lens for only $899 US for a 17-28 f2.8. Tamron's the way to go. It really is. It's that impressive. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the Tamron 17-28. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Like always, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube. We love your comments, appreciate your feedback, good, bad, or otherwise. Follow us on Facebook. Until the next one, take care.